Hello, this is Ms. DB, and in this lesson I'm going to go over how to do the more complicated trinomial factoring where you have some number in front of the x squared term. We've already practiced factoring trinomials that are x squared plus bx plus c. For example, you could now factor something like x squared plus 6x plus 5. And now we're going to look at what if there's a number in front of this, because it does complicate things. Remember, to factor this trinomial, we say what times what equals x squared, and that would be x times x, and they go first in each set of parentheses. And then you say what are the factors of 5, like 1 times 5 equals 5, and they go in the last part. And the great thing about factoring trinomials like this is that if you can find the factors of 5 that also add up to equal the middle term, then you're set. Then you know what your answer is going to be, and then this is factored. And how did we check this? We FOILed it. So we went x times x, first times first is x squared. The outer would be x times 5 is 5x. The inner would be 1 times x is 1x. And then we took the last times last, and that would be plus 5. So the way that we got our middle term is we did outer plus inner. So outer plus inner equals our middle term. And that's important because when we do these problems, there's going to be a number in front of the x squared terms. For example, let's go backwards a little bit. Let's say we are going to FOIL this problem, 3x plus 2 times 2x plus 5. We worked with this in the last chapter. If we multiply these together, you take your first times first term, and you would get 6x squared. So the 3 times 2 equals the number in front of the x squared term. If you do the last times last, you would get the 10. 2 times 5 is 10. But the middle is the outer plus the inner. So to factor, if we were starting with a problem like this side, if we were starting with this, the first thing you do is you set up your two sets of parentheses. They put boxes here to stand for that we're going to fill these in with something. And then you have to figure out what times what equals 6x squared. That will go in the first boxes of each parentheses. And then we have to figure out what times what equals the 10. That's going to go in the second boxes in each set of parentheses. And then we'll FOIL to check. So guess and check is when we don't really have a method of doing this other than we write our two sets of parentheses. We know that we have to get 6x squared. So we have to do like 6x and 1x, or we could do 2x and 3x. And we also know that our last term has to be 4. So we could either do 2 and 2, or we could do 4 times 1. There's more than one possibility, so we're not sure what the right answer is going to be yet. So let's try this one. Let's try 2x and 3x for the factors of 6x squared, and let's try 4 times 1 for the factors of 4. And then you FOIL to see if our middle term works, because outer plus inner should be 11x. And we already see a red x here. It's not going to work, but let's see why. So first times first term is 2x times 3x. That works. And then the outer would be 2x, and the inner would be 12x, and they're both positive, and 2x plus 12x equals 14x, and that's where this falls apart. That's why this does not work, is because the middle term does not work. The last term you can check, 4 times 1 is 4, so the last term checks, but it doesn't matter because the middle term does not work out. So now we can erase the work we did, or we can just start over, and we're going to try, instead of using 2 and 3, we're going to try using 1 times 6 to get our x squared term. And then again, you FOIL to check. Let me get rid of some of that. So you FOIL, you go 1x times 6x, yep, that works, 6x squared. And then the middle term is the outer plus the inner. 1x times 1 is 1x, And 4 times 6x is 24x, which is 25x, which is not the right answer. That is not equal to 11x. You don't even have to check the last term because it doesn't matter. And then you would try another set of factors and see if maybe it works if we use 2 and 2 for our factors of 4. And you FOIL, so we'd get 6x squared. Yep, that's good. And then outer plus inner would be 1x times 2 is 2x plus 2 times 6x is 12x. 2x plus 12x is 14x again. That is not right. And then you would just keep going until you find the right set of solutions. And it turns out that the right ones are to use 3x times 2x for the 6x squared. And then the outer here would be 3x times 1 is 3x plus 8x. And 3x plus 8x does equal 11x. And then you check your last times your last, and it is 4. So they all work. So finally then your factors would be this. Now it doesn't usually take you 5 tries to get to the right one. Just once in a while it will be a little bit lengthy. We already did this one. They're just now pulling it together and saying these are the answers. Okay, let's try another example. This is similar to the last one we did, except it's plus 3 instead of plus 4. Let's see if that makes it easier or harder. So the first thing you do is you set up your 2 sets of parentheses. Now you have to decide if you want to use 6x and 1x or 2x and 3x. And then your factors of 3 will go on the last part. So it's only going to be 3 times 1 or 1 times 3. I'll just try this one. And they're all pluses, so I'll put pluses here. Now the most important thing you do on this section is that you check, because this could be completely wrong. So I'll take my first times first. That usually works, 6x squared. And then for the middle term, it'll be my outer plus my inner. 6x times 1 is 6x, and 3 times 1x is 3x. I can already tell that this isn't going to work because 6x plus 3x does not equal 11x. So these factors don't work. So I'll try something different. I think that I will switch this to 2x plus 3 and 3x plus 1. So this time I said that my first times first would be 2x times 3x is 6x squared. Now I have to check my outer. Let's see, that would be 2x, and my inner would be 9x. And my last times last would be 3 times 1 is 3. So this time I think I chose correctly. It only took me 2 tries. 2x plus 9x is 11x, and I've got the right answers. So the solution is right here. This is the solution. The rest of it's checking. 2x plus 3 times 3x plus 1 is the solution. So once you get your answer, you're done. All right, now I'm just going to fast forward here a little bit. I meant to delete. Oh, here we go. Okay, so sometimes you might decide that guess and check or this trial and error method is taking too long. And if so, there is a technique you can use. You can organize your checking without writing without having to try each thing and FOIL it to find out the answer. And the key is that you remember that the middle term will be the outer plus the inner. If you remember that, then you'll be able to kind of organize yourself and make this a little bit easier. All right, so we have 2x squared plus 17x plus 21. What we're going to do is we are going to set up a table where we put our factors of 2, that's our first term, they're saying that's A, and you write your factors of 2 down. The factors of 21 are here. So you write your 2 factors of 2, your 2 factors of 21, and then you check the outer plus the inner. You multiply the outer together, 1 times 21, and then you multiply the inner, 2 times 1, and then you add that, and you see which ones will equal 17. That's what we want because that's our middle term. So we want the outer plus the inner to equal our b term. This is our a term, this is our c term, this is our b term. And they found finally down here that if they took 1 times 3, the outer, plus 2 times 7, 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 7 is 14, that they would get 17. So that means that this is the row that is good, this row here. And then you're ready to write your parentheses. So in your parentheses, you would put 1x and 2x. That's going to be, you could put a 1 here if you wanted. Those are the first parts of each parentheses gets a 1x and a 2x, so these have x's after them, because it's really 2x squared, right? And then the 21 is plus 7 and plus 3. And then, of course, we can check it by FOIL to make sure that we did indeed choose correctly. And when you add your middle term together, you find that it does work, just like we thought it would. So using a table can help us kind of shorten the process a little bit and find the right answer before having to FOIL every single one. Now, if there are a negative in the middle and a plus here, that means that you're going to have to use x minus something, well, something x, and something x minus. So they're both going to be minus minus. And then they use the table to find that 1x and 3x would work, and negative 4 and negative 4. And then they put those into their parentheses. And remember, for 1x, you can write a 1x here, or you can just write an x. So it would be x minus 4 and 3x minus 4. And then you can multiply them back together to see that this does indeed equal a negative 16x for a middle term. All right, let's use the table method to do this one. So your factors of a go here, and a is 6x, or you can write 6x squared. And your factors of c go on the next table. That's the number with no x. And then this is outer plus inner. And that has to, in this one, it has to equal 17, because our middle term is 17x. Okay, so let's pick some factors of 6x squared. So we could use 3x and 2x. 5 is just 1 times 5, or 5 times 1. And now we're going to check our outer plus our inner. So your outer would be 15x. Oh, did I get it right on the first try? So the outer plus the inner would be 15x plus 2x, and that does equal 17x. So I actually picked the right ones on the first try. That usually doesn't happen, but I got lucky there. Once you know what your factors are, then the 3x and the 2x are the first things in the parentheses, and then the second part would be the plus 1 and the plus 5. And then you FOIL to check. So here's their table. It took them 3 tries to get the right answer. And then here they are checking with FOIL, and they did find that it was exactly correct. Okay, let's see how long it takes me on this table. So 9x squared minus 15x plus 4. So in the first one, you put your factors of a. So that would be 9x squared. And then in this one, you put your factors of c, which is 4. And then your outer plus your inner has to equal negative 15x. Okay, so your factors of 9 might be 3x and 3x. Try that first, and then I'll try 2 and 2. All right, so if I did 3x and 3x, I got to get a different color pen here. Your outer plus your inner would be 3x times 2 is 6x, and your inner would be 3x times 2 is also 6x. That would be 12x, which is not equal to negative 15x. As I did that, I'm like, I have to get a negative, so I must have to put a negative in my factors of the 4. It's going to have to be negative and negative, so negative, negative, remind myself. I don't think the negative 2 and negative 2 would work, though, because then I would just have negative 12x for a sum. So I'll switch up I'll do 3x and 3x, and I'll do -4 and -1. Let's try this one. I'll go to a red color. So the outer plus the inner would be -3x minus 12x. -3x minus 12x is -15x. Hey, that works. So my second try, I got it. So now you're ready for your parentheses. The 3x and 3x goes at the front. The -4 and the -1 goes here. And then you FOIL to check. And when you check it with FOIL, you will find that it works, that you got it correct. This one, I think, let's see, we'd have 3x squared for my first, 12 for my, and then this would be the outer plus inner has to equal 13x. So the factors of 3x squared could either be 3x and 1x or 1x and 3x, not many options there. Factors of 12 could be 1 and 12, could be, I'll try 2 and 6, could be 3 and 4, I don't really know. And now I got to check the outer plus the inner. So the outer would be 3x times 6, and the inner would be 2x. So 3x times 6 would be 18x. This isn't going to work. That's too big. Okay, maybe I should do 3 and 4. So for my second one, I'll try 3x and 1x and 3 and 4. So let's see if that makes it better. So now I have 3x times 4. 3x times 4 is 12x plus, that's 3x. That's 15x. That doesn't work either. Okay. Next one. Let's do 3x and 1x. Let's do, should I do 4 and 3 or 2 and 6? Oh, I did 2 and 6 once. Let's see, I got to get to 13. This was 20x. This was 15x. Let's try 4 and 3, just flipping them. Alright, so I've got to do outer is 3 times 3x is 9x. Inner is 4 times 1x is 4x. And this one works. So my third try was the charm on this one. Once you know which one works, you put your two sets of parentheses and 3x and 1x here. And this would be plus 4 plus 3. And then you check it by FOIL. If you have a negative here before the last term, that means one of them is going to be plus and one of them is going to be minus. So when you set your table up, just remember that you have to have, one of them will have to be a positive and one of them will have to be a negative. So this could be, the first term here is going to stay 3n and 1n. Can't really do much with those. But for this, I have to have one of them has to be negative and one of them has to be positive. So the outer plus inner would be, in this one, the outer would be 3n and the inner would be minus 4n. So that's not going to work because that would give me negative 1n. What if I just switch these? What if I put the leave the 3n and the 1n, but switch the 1 and the negative 4 around? Let's try that. So now I would have, ooh, this is going to be close, but not quite. This is going to be 3n times negative 4 is negative 12n plus 1n. That's a negative 11n. And I want a plus. So what I need to change, I'm going to leave everything the same, except I'm going to put the negative on the 1 and the positive on the 4. Let's see if this works now. So then I would have 3n times 4 is 12n. 1n times negative 1 is minus 1n. There we go. That works. And then you're ready for your parentheses. You put in 3n and 1n. -1 plus 4. And then, of course, you check with FOIL, and it will work because we kind of just did our FOIL. We just kind of did it off on the side there. This is just some more examples. I'm not going to go through all of them. Hopefully you're getting the hang of what you would do in order to do these problems. And the table can help you, it's still kind of a lot of work, but it can help you organize your trial and errors a little bit. So at the end of this, I put some questions from our textbook, problems, the worksheet that you had to do. Oh, if your first term is a negative, you should factor a -1 out of everything first, which changes the signs and makes it easier to do. Your solution will still have a -1 in front of you have to put that back. That's part of the answer, but it makes it easier to do the rest of the problem. Another example with a negative factor in front, you make sure you put the -1 back in front. All right, so here's some problems from our book. And I'm going to do the table method to do number 7. So I'm on my table. 5x squared is the first part of the table. 2 is the second column, and then this is the outer plus inner has to equal 11x in order for it to work. So the factors of 5x are 5x and 1x. The factors of 2 are only 2 times 1 or 1 times 2. So this one won't take too long to do. And then I check the outer plus the inner. So the outer would be 5x. The inner would be 1x, which does not equal 11x, so that's not the right answer. So let's do the same thing, except I'll switch the 1 and the 2 around and see if this works. So now I check the outer plus the inner. So 5x times 2 is 10x. 1x times 1, yep, this is going to work. That does equal 11x. And then you're ready for your parentheses. Now, if you're working on this assignment, you do not have to turn this work in if it's hard and complicated to type it. You could do this on another piece of paper. All I really need is your answers, which is 5x and 1x plus 1 plus 2. And then you should FOIL to check, but you don't have to turn the FOIL part in either. Let's look at number 9 because there's a negative in it. So my first part of my table will be 4x squared. The second column is the 5, and the last one is the outer plus the inner has to equal -9x. So I'm going to do 2x and 2x. I might be wrong, but that's okay. And I'll do 5 times 1. And now I have to check the outer plus the inner. So outer would be 2x, inner would be 10x, which does not equal -9x. And then as soon as I see that, oh, I'm supposed to get a negative, I'm like, oh, I should have had both of these should be negative. So, but it doesn't do any good to just change both of these to negative because it didn't work anyway. So I'm going to flip them. So I'm going to stick with the 2x and the 2x for now, but I'm going to flip these and make them both be negative, because -1 times -5 is equal to 5 as well. And then I'll check my outer plus my inner. So my outer would be -10x. My inner would be -2x. So this does not equal -9x. But at least it's negative. It's closer than I was before. So I must have to change one of these to 4x times 1x. That's also equal to 4x squared. I don't think this is going to work, because the outer is too big. It's -20x. It's not going to work. I'm going to go ahead and just move to the next one, which would be 4x and 1x and -5 and -1. I'll try this one. There's no sense in, if you can see it's not going to work, there's no sense in continuing on. So the outer would be -4x and the inner would be -5x, and that does equal -9x. This is the right one. So then you're ready for your parentheses. put your 4x here, your 1x here, -5, -1, and there you go. Let's do one where there's a negative in front, like number 23. I'm going to factor a -1 out, which means that this becomes 4x squared, this becomes plus 8x, and this would become -5. After that, the rest is pretty much the same. Your factors of 4x squared will go in the first column. Whoa. Your factors of -5 would go in this column, and this would be outer plus inner equals 8x. Alright, let's do... We have to get a -5 here, so one has to be positive and one has to be negative, or one negative, one positive. Let's do 2x and 2x, and -5 and +1. So the outer would be 2x, the inner would be -10x. Oh, it's close. That's -8x. So I'll just switch the signs on these and see then if it works. 5 and -1. So outer would be -2x and inner would be +10x. Yay, that one works. And then you're ready to set up your parentheses, which would be 2x and 2x +5 -1. And then you FOIL to check, and it should work, and you should get that. So I hope you found this helpful and have some techniques that you can use to finish this worksheet up. Thank you very much and have a great day.